Hello, everybody. It is Doppio back again after quite a long time, but it is good to be back. I know I'm sure some of y'all have been wondering where have I been at, if I'm making any more videos or if I'm not going to be doing that. But yeah, I've just been busy the past couple months. I actually recently, as of the recording this video 2 days ago, graduated finally. I now have my bachelor's degree in psychology, and that was taking up a lot of my time the past couple months. But I did make some time to head over to Frosty Faustings 2025, where I actually met some of y'all. Some people actually introduced themselves to me and said that they knew me not through my SG tournament gameplay or excerpt or anything like that, but through my videos. They'd seen my videos and they really, really enjoyed them. And that made me very happy. I've always kind of loved the more competitive side of fighting game commentary content. My love of LK's videos is no secret at all. And so to think that I could make content like that, stuff that I would want to watch for SG specifically that didn't really exist. I just wanted to make it for myself. I thought it was something that should exist, and to think that other people also really enjoy that stuff makes me really, really happy. So thank you again, everyone, for watching, commenting, sharing the videos around, asking questions, coming up to me in person. Like, it's a pleasure to be able to know that other people enjoy the same kind of content I'm making, and I'm gonna continue making it as best I can for however long I can. So yeah, thank you again. Um, I'm planning on making a couple more vids over the summer just to keep my mind on things. It's a good thing for my mental health, especially. And I have about 2 to 3 more ideas that I have very solidly locked in my head. But if there are any other ideas you guys have, feel free to leave them in the comments or reach out to me on any of the social medias that are linked below or on my about page or anything like that. And yeah, and additionally, one last thing is that I am planning on Twitch streaming. I'm going to be streaming my tournament runs on Tuesdays and Thursdays for Xrd and SG respectively. And I'm also planning on streaming some Hunt Showdown if my PC allows and everything works out. If that seems like something interesting to you, I usually play the game like every day, and it's something I think I would have a lot of fun streaming. So if you guys want to tune in there, feel free. I'll have again links in the description or in my about page. Feel free to check those out. And yeah, so on to today's video. Basically, I've had this idea rattling around in my head for a little while because it is a bit of a journey that I went on to kind of understand it. It is an addendum to my previous SG video, so if you haven't seen that one, feel free to go check it out. I don't think it's super necessary viewing for this, but it might give you a little bit more context. And it was about specifically some of the OSs that I discussed in that video. And I thought, after going through this whole process of trying to figure it out, labbing it for myself, and coming to a conclusion, I thought it would make a very, very interesting YouTube video. So, without further ado, this is the curious case of SGGK in Skullgirls. So, some of y'all might be wondering, what is SGGK anyway? And if you're someone who's regularly played Third Strike or seen the Bathael video I linked in the description of the last video, or has been around the fighting game community for a little while, you might have heard about this OS, or you at least might know about it, right? But I'm gonna try to explain it here. Again, if I'm gonna have links to continued learning, continued resources in the description if this is something that you're more interested in. But I'm gonna try to do the best I can to explain it for the context of this video. So, in Third Strike, there's a couple of mechanics that you need to know about. First and foremostly, you can Kara cancel any of your normals into any special move or throw. So, for instance, this is Ryu's throw, right? Just light punch, light kick, right? If I press stab medium kick, but I press stab medium kick and then immediately after press throw, a throw will come out, right? Because, right, the game considers the throw as a higher priority than the stab medium kick or any other normal button that I could press in this situation, right? And so it cancels the startup of whatever normal that I pressed into the throw. This is something that's very commonly seen on characters that have normals that extend their range during the initial activation frames during the startup. For instance, Ryu has forward medium punch, which goes a little bit forward, right? If I cancel the forward medium punch into throw, or I Kara with the forward medium punch, you can see he steps forward a little bit. He goes quite a bit farther forward, right? Versus if I just do a normal throw, right? So it's a useful tech that a lot of characters use, especially characters like Chun-Li. Another mechanic that you need to know about is that in Third Strike, when you parry a move, the game actually saves the first input you make, and it makes that come out as soon as the parry's over. So it basically gives you a really, really big buffer window to press a button so that it may come out once the parry is over. It's basically going to make parry punishes significantly easier than they would be otherwise, right? The combination of these two things leads to a very, very interesting option select. So, the Ryu on the right-hand side, the default color Ryu here, I have him set to jump, do forward, medium kick into throw, right? So, if I do nothing, if I just let him jump, land, and then throw me, right, I'll get thrown, exactly. But what happens if I try to throw him? Obviously, a throw tap, right? Now, what happens if the Ryu parries a move that I do as soon as he lands? he gets a stand medium kick. Because the game doesn't care what you Kara the medium kick into once the parry happens. It just says, oh, you parried a move? Oh, the first button you pressed is stand medium kick? Here's your stand medium kick, right? This is SGGK, right? Now, some of you might be wondering, what is really the use for this? This doesn't seem super useful, and some of you actually might already see where this is going, but let's just do a little demonstration for the sake of argument, right? Here is Ryu's reward off of a throw. He gets a knockdown, right? Which is pretty solid, especially for Denjin Ryu, right? But generally, it's not going to be a ton of frame advantage, and you don't really get a lot of damage out of it. Now, let's see what Ryu's advantage is off of a stand medium kick. Or in some cases, so as you can see, it's a lot more advantageous for you to hit that stand medium kick than it is for him to get a throw in most situations. And so this option select basically allows you to get the normal when you would want to get the normal and get the throw when you would ideally want to get the throw. It's actually one of the most powerful OSs in Third Strike, and it's something that's actually quite common at the higher levels of play because it's so useful for so many characters. So, some of y'all might be wondering then, does this work in SG? I mean, it seems like a kind of thing that I should have talked about in the last video, considering I was discussing Third Strike OSs that work in SG, but it just wasn't something that had crossed my mind. So I asked a couple of the local players that we have here in California, Swing, Ruby, Emmy, and I asked a couple people at Combo Breaker, most notably the Kill Sage, right? Who's someone who's played ban for a very long time. And all of them responded in the same exact way. Delpio, what are you talking about? I get a little bit, but like basically none of them knew what SGGK was. So I explained in a similar way to what I just did for you guys here on the YouTube video. And they said, well, either A, probably not, because Kara throw isn't really a thing in Skullgirls, or no, probably not, because it just doesn't seem like the kind of thing that would be implemented in Skullgirls. It seems like a very powerful option select, which is very true, right? And I hadn't really heard anyone discussing it in SG, so at the very least I knew that it wasn't something that was very commonly known on Big Bang, right? But here's the thing, I do know that Kara throw exists. Now, this is a quick brief aside, but basically, to explain how I know that Kara throw existed, there's this tech that I believe Nezo developed. I might be completely wrong on that, but Nezo was the person who showed me, and at least Ruby told me that Nezo showed him. So, basically, if I try to input a throw after doing Beowulf's Dash, I will just never ever get a throw, because I don't get an air throw, I don't get a ground throw, but I can do hop normals. And once I do the hop normal, I'm actually considered airborne. Before I do the hop normal, I'm considered grounded, but once I've done the normal, the game considers me airborne, right? So, normally, not able to do a throw, but what happens if I Kara the throw after either a light punch or a light kick? So I plink, light kick, light punch, or light punch, light kick, right? I get an air throw. And as you can see on the input history, I'm pressing the light kick or the light punch first, and then I press the other one immediately after, right? And this gives me an air throw. I speculate that this works because the game treats you actually as jumping once you've pressed the air normal, and it doesn't check to see if you've dashed previously. So while here I can't throw because the game just treats me as I'm dashing, it actually stops checking for my dash once I've pressed the air normal, and then just treats me as a jumping character. So it lets me Kara cancel into my throw. So clearly here, Kara cancel does work in Skullgirls in some capacity. And you can actually see this working on Big Band as well, because of a little quirk with his stand light kick. Now, on grounded throw, Big Band doesn't actually move at all. You can see his feet stay exactly static of where they're on the grid on the floor below, right? But if I do the same input that I did with Beowulf with Big Band, so I plink the light kick into the light punch, you can see he's actually behind the line now. So he's moving backwards. And this is a quirk because of the way his stand light kick works. The startup of it moves him back a little bit. So this clearly shows that while this is not match practical or useful in any capacity to my understanding, Kara throw does exist within Skullgirls. And therefore, shouldn't SGGK exist? Right? So, couple stipulations on how Kara actually works in Skullgirls specifically. So, first and foremostly, Kara does not work into throw off of any normal that isn't light punch or light kick. So I'm gonna actually slow the game down here. Right. And the first input I'm gonna make is a light kick. Right? And the next input I'm going to make on the next frame is holding light punch. And you can see the throw comes out, right? It resolves like normal. Let's do the exact same thing with stand medium punch. So I stop. The first input is stand medium punch. Next frame, I'm canceling into throw. This is the fastest I could cancel my stand medium punch if it were to be able to be carded in the throw. And the stand medium punch comes up, right? And this is the same across all of Big Band's normals except for light punch and light kick, right? So again, it's an input leniency thing, but it's specifically meant to work with his light punch and light kick, right? But that still could work, right? I mean, you still could do parry, Kara, jab into throw, right? So here I actually have the Big Band on the right doing jump into forward, light kick, Kara into throw, right? Now, you can also see that I did the Kara correctly because he actually does move back on the little grid over there, right? So let's see what happens if I try to throw. We got a throw attack, right? Just like the first example, still works just like that. Now, let's see what happens if the parry is successful. He still gets a throw. Basically meaning that, yeah, once you do the parry, it doesn't actually save the first input or anything like that. It just gives you the throw immediately. Now, after some testing, I tried to finagle with this and see what I could do. I tried it in the air, on the ground. I tried every basic permutation of it that I could possibly think of. And there is no way to get a normal if you do input the throw. The game does save the throw. So if you input a throw and then try to input a button after, it will generally save the throw. I tried testing it with slowdown and everything like that, and that was the best that I could come up with results. There's not really any documentation on this I could find, nothing like that, but to the best of my labbing capability, the game does save your input if it's a throw, but it will not supersede the input, but it also doesn't let you do the whole Kara SGGK style OS at all. So this OS, interestingly enough, does not work in Skullgirls, and that does check out with what Sage told me and a lot of other people told me. This is something that the people who did make Skullgirls would probably be knowledgeable about, especially if they're implementing third strike parry like this. And so, therefore, it would be a thing that they would be aware of, and it would be pretty strong on a character like Band who gets a lot of reward off hits. And yeah, that's basically how SGGK is implemented, or I guess really not implemented, in Skullgirls Second Encore. And it's very interesting to see how Kara Throw kind of exists in the form that it was originally intended, basically as a input leniency mechanic, but a lot of the specific option selects around it were taken out of the game very specifically. And it's kind of cool to see how that was, you know, kind of put into the system of Skullgirls specifically. So yeah, now I know some of y'all are still probably wondering, Dobio, what is SGGK? Like, what does it stand for? Because clearly it's an acronym for something, and you're correct, it is. It stands for Super Great Goalkeeper, which doesn't mean anything, right? Now, for me, the first time I ever heard about this was the Bafael video, and I realized, oh, well, I guess maybe it's like a kind of quirky way of saying that it's good defense, right? Because, like, goalkeeper, super great goalkeeper, super good defense, kind of intuitively makes sense, right? A goalkeeper is someone who plays good defense, and this is a very strong defensive OS, right? But I actually recently got schooled on that. The most interesting response I ever got to bringing up this whole SGGK question around Skullgirls community members, or anyone for that matter, was a friend of the channel and friend of myself personally, Tofu Boy, right? Tofu Boy, as some of y'all might know, is a very, very good Skullgirls competitor, someone who's competed in Mixed Masters many a time and is super great at the game. And he told me once I asked him this question, are you asking me what SGGK is in reference to or about the tech? And I'm like, doesn't SGGK just reference the tech? And he said, no, it's a reference to Captain Tsubasa. And I'm like, what? I mean, this is the first time I'd ever heard about it, right? And he told me that SGGK, or Super Great Goalkeeper, is in reference to the character Genzo Wakabayashi from the manga Captain Tsubasa. It's a very, very old manga. I'd heard about it before. It's a very famous sports manga about dudes playing soccer, right? And apparently, one of the characters is actively referred to as SGGK, Super Great Goalkeeper, right? It's a title that's bestowed upon him. Because basically, and this is this explanation is courtesy of Tofu. I've never read the manga personally. Basically, there's no way to score on him unless you get a penalty, right? And this, to me, personally, is funny on multiple levels. First of all, this kind of makes sense, right? Because this tech probably wasn't named by English-speaking third strike players, at least to the best of my knowledge, right? it makes sense that it would have a Japanese a name that references a Japanese manga, because likely it was a tech that first came out of Japan, right? As Third Strike is kind of Japan is kind of the hub of Third Strike currently and back in the day as well, right? But it's also kind of funny because it kind of is relevant to the technique, right? Because the only way you'd really be able to hit somebody doing this is by hitting them with a really, really messed up high-low setup or some sort of complex Okizeme situation, something like Urien or a Denjin Unblockable, right? So you can kind of think of that as a penalty, and it actually works within the system of Third Strike. So yeah, I've never seen anyone discuss this or and any resource this we talked about that SGGK is specifically in reference to Captain Tsubasa, but this was the first time I'd ever heard about it, and it's all thanks to Tofu Boy. So yeah, I found this to be a really, really fun little thing that came out of me exploring this idea further, and I wanted to share it with the world, as again, I'd never really seen any documentation on it. But yeah, that is basically all I had for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this story. I hope it was something that you guys found very, very fun and interesting. Or at the very least, it might have been something new that you learned. Or if you like Captain Tsubasa, I mean, hey, there you go. This is something you can talk to Third Strike players about. So yeah, with that all being said, I've been King Doppio. Thank you everybody for watching. I look forward to making a couple more videos down the line, hearing from you guys in the comments. And yeah, go out, play some Skullgirls, play some fighting games, and enjoy life. Talk to you guys soon. Take care.